The Sonic movie is out now in cinemas all around the world, and it stars Ben Schwartz as Sonic, Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, and James Marsden as some sheriff guy. Is that right?
Yeah, he's a sheriff. Let's just say he's a sheriff. He's a small town sheriff. I've forgotten his name. Tom, Dave, one of those.
Sweet. Standard generic name.
Yeah.
Joining me to talk about it is Ollie from Eurogamer.
Hello,
Ollie. So you've watched it. You got to watch it like a couple of days before everybody else, right?
Yeah. So I had the privilege. They did a couple of press screenings. One of them was on the Sunday morning, and I think it was quite big, and people brought their kids along to it. And it was probably quite a good time. I couldn't make that one.
Okay.
So I went to the Monday afternoon screening with a load of grumpy, sort of late middle-aged film critics who didn't want to be there, sitting in a screening room in a Soho hotel.
What was the general vibe like you were getting from everybody?
The general vibe was, I don't want to watch the Sonic movie. I don't really care whether it's any good or not.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was pretty low-key. So yeah, maybe I didn't have the best introduction to the film. Fair.
So you've done a review. It's up on Eurogamer right now. Basically, what's your general summary of that review?
It's not good. It's not that it's a terrible movie. It's a movie that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
It's a movie where the basic concept for it is just a bad idea. Granted, I don't think making a Sonic the Hedgehog film is an easy thing to do because it's a bit conceptually weird. But yeah, no, it just doesn't work. Could
you name 5 things that were good that you could take away from the film?
Okay, 5 things that were good. Some of the jokes.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like the film goes pretty hard for comedy, and it misses. I didn't laugh a lot, but like I say, part of that may have been down to viewing it in a particularly deathly atmosphere. But I did. There's a few of the jokes just brought up a smile. I think it's like, oh yeah, no, that's quite fun. So Jim Carrey's performance is tricky. I like it. It's weird seeing him go back to a style of performing he was doing 20 years ago, and it's full on. The Mask, Ace Ventura,
right?
Batman Forever. Which
yeah,
Batman was
that's one where he was the Riddler, right? Yeah.
Riddler. It's that Jim Carrey is he's
yeah,
loads of energy, loads of weird slapstick, loads of strange jerky arm movements, really intense vocal performance. I didn't really find it that funny.
Huh.
I think he makes the character a little bit. He's playing Dr. Robotnik.
Uh-huh.
He makes the character a little bit sinister, and in a way that feels a little bit uncomfortable in what is basically a knockabout kids movie. But there's still some amazing moments of it. So I think for my 5 things, I'm going to nominate the dance scene that he does, which is really weird. And it's kind of wrong, but it's also super memorable.
Okay.
Just because you get to see Jim Carrey doing his thing, and that's kind of exciting.
Is it like the Mask level dance? When he had that one scene where he started getting all the cops doing the.
It's not quite. Yeah, it's not quite that entertaining.
Oh, okay.
It makes you feel a little bit on edge watching it, but it's still oh wow, Jim Carrey is doing that, I guess.
Yeah.
They made the rings come up around. They made Sonic rings come up around the Paramount logo instead of stars at the start. That's a cute touch.
Yep.
This is the thing. There's stuff in the movie that technically works quite well, and the big set pieces are they go along the vein. So Sonic is so fast that when some action happens, he can basically zip around. Basically, time freezes around him, and he can zip around doing whatever he likes within the scene.
Right.
So if you've seen X-Men: Days of Future Past, the famous scene with Quicksilver in that, which is the gold standard for how you do a character with super speed in the movies, they do that scene several times, but played for laughs.
Okay.
Taken purely on their own merits, those scenes are quite clever. There's one in a bar fight, which is why is Sonic in a bar fight? But never mind. There's one where he's facing off with Robotnik. A couple where he's facing off with Robotnik. The scenes are quite well done. It's just that for me, that's the Flash. Do you know what I mean? That's Quicksilver. That's how you interpret those characters' super speed powers. That's a comic book thing where time just degrades into loads of frames, and the character can zip around within it doing whatever they like.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Sonic speed is should be like a rush. It should be like headlong speed, everything zipping past you, and they do that a couple of times. But like, yeah, for the big set pieces, they go for that Quicksilver thing instead, which, like I say, the shots work. They're quite impressive, but that's not Sonic to me.
Right. Okay. I get you.
So I think like this is like a recurring theme, isn't it? It's like there's things in the movie that work, but they just don't feel very Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
And like Jim Carrey's performance kind of works. It's weird and off-putting, but interesting, but doesn't feel very Sonic the Hedgehog until the very end of the movie, where I would say this is a spoiler, but they've already put it out in the production stills.
Okay.
He finally appears as Robotnik does in the game. So like, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen him with the little sort of waxed Civil War moustache and the sort of slick back hair and the black suit, and then at the end he appears with the crazy goggles and the massive bushy moustache and the shaved head.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, this is what I showed up to see, and the movie's over. So,
wow. Okay.
yeah, and there's a post-credit scene as well, which I may as well have as my fifth thing, which again is like, oh, this is something that Sonic fans will have turned up to see.
Right.
But
okay.
It only turns up after the credits have already been rolling.
Okay. Interesting. But the post-credit scene is like specifically for Sonic fans. Like they'll be happy to have made it to the end of the movie and sat through the credits.
They will certainly want to see it.
Okay.
And it will make them wish that the second movie would happen, which I don't know. Maybe it will. We'll see how well this does in the box office over the weekend.
Yeah. So we've had five of your top things, which seem to be a bit of a struggle. I feel like now asking for 5 of the things that you dislike the most might be like a quick thing to shoot through.
The best one I've seen. This isn't an original comment. This is one that the Telegraph's film critic Robbie Collin put on Twitter. Is why is there a Sonic the Hedgehog movie in which one of the main action scenes, Sonic the Hedgehog spends most of it sat in the passenger seat of a pickup truck? It's like this is the extent to which they haven't really got this character right. Occasionally he does run around really fast, but yeah, they're so intent on establishing this buddy thing with James Marsden's character, who is the small town sheriff, that they're more interested in having Sonic sat in the car bantering with him than they are in having Sonic running around really fast.
Right.
So yeah, that seems like a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
I mentioned just how Sonic just doesn't really look like he belongs in the film. For me, the main one is the extent to which it feels like you could have taken Sonic the Hedgehog out of this and put in virtually any sort of video game or cartoon character who's well known, with just minor adjustments to the script. Just like take Sonic out, take Robotnik out, put the I don't know, whoever, like Pikachu, put whatever character in, put their nemesis in the Robotnik role, and you've got yourself a sort of flat pack, like, let's create a new franchise based on a popular IP movie. It was like, you know, any character who's a bit weird and doesn't belong in the human world, oh yeah, okay, we'll do like a version of E.T. where he sort of lands with the humans and then he befriends a human after hiding out. And then he needs to get somewhere, so the human takes him on a road trip, and they bond on the road trip. And it's just so obvious. It's so obvious. What's another thing? He doesn't run around collecting the rings up.
Okay.
There is. I said in my review, at no point does Sonic's rings get scattered. So he's got a bag full of rings, which in this movie are interdimensional portals.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, oh right, so those are going to get scattered all over the place, and he's going to have to run around picking them up. No, it doesn't happen. There is one scene where I think he gets knocked over and he spills the rings, and he just picks them up.
Oh,
and it's
amazing,
like,
great.
Oh, you just like. I'm not saying you should build an entire plot for a movie around Sonic the Hedgehog, because you can't do that, and obviously you have to come up with something different. But I think they could have found more room to put some fan service in and put the stuff in that people like. Another one, the fact that it just all takes place in fairly bland, like, real world locations, I feel like that's kind of missing the point. I think even Detective Pikachu invited you into a Pokemon world to an extent when you were watching that movie. This just doesn't do that. It's like, okay, we've got the character of Sonic, let's bring him into our world. That's way easier to deal with than try and make a movie in Sonic's world, which is really surreal. but I want to be in that world. I want to be under those Sega blue skies. I want to, live in Green Hill Zone. That sounds crazy. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a full-on animated movie made in the Sonic universe could be like really fun. It could have loads of really surreal, bright, eye-popping visuals. It could be great for kids.
Yeah, I mean, like in the trailer, we have like the small glimpse of Green Hills, right?
Yeah, and it's barely any longer in the film. It's like maybe 30 seconds, a minute, right at the start when you're being introduced to the character, and then it's like, oh no, some bad people have noticed you've got powers. They're going to come after you. Quick, you need to go and escape to a different parallel dimension, which just happens to be Earth.
Wow. Okay.
That's it.
Great.
You're done.
Amazing. And what's your final negative for it?
Oh, let me see. The director's just complete lack of comic timing. And I think this is the reason why the film isn't funny, despite having some good jokes in the script, and despite having Jim Carrey in it, an amazing comic performer, and Ben Schwartz playing Sonic, who, like, you may, if you ever watch Parks and Recreation, he played John Ralphio, a character that just, like, has me in stitches the moment he appears on the screen.
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't find it funny, and I couldn't really figure out why, because I was like, the raw material's there, some of the gags are all right. Like, you got Jim Carrey, for God's sake. But I put it down in the end. I put it down to the fact that the director just didn't have any comic timing. Like, and the cuts, the slapstick, the stuff, it just had no zip. It's such a lifeless movie. So yeah, that's. I think that would be my fifth. Is that 5?
I think that was 5.
Talking for long enough that way,
yeah. I think we got it. We got 5 positives just about, and then 5 negatives pretty easily. Let's end it with you recommending whether people should watch it or avoid it. What would you say?
I would say basically no, it's not a good movie. However, if you have small kids who are badgering you to see it and you can't find a better option, yeah, fine. They'll probably have a decent time with the film. Not like teeny tiny kids, not like under 5s, but like 5 to 10-year-old kids. I think they'll probably enjoy it.
Okay.
And or if you're a Sonic super fan who's just going to get a kick out of seeing Sonic in a movie, the film is not bad enough that you're going to be really sad when you come out of it. I think you'll probably be like, yeah, I got to see Sonic in a movie. Yeah, okay, I can live with that. It doesn't, and you get those little 2 hits of fan service I mentioned right at the end when Robotnik looks like Robotnik, and the post-credits thing, which I won't spoil.
Well, there we go. That's Ollie's quick synopsis and 5 things he liked and disliked about the Sonic movie. Yeah, you can check out the Sonic movie now in cinemas all around the world. All around the world, right? Like everywhere, 14th. Yeah. All right, there we go. Sonic movie. Thanks.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. What better day for Sonic the Hedgehog,
yeah,
I guess.
Actually, don't take your date to Sonic the movie. That's in the no column of should I go and see it.
Brilliant.